Donald Trump has never been one to shy away from controversy, but his latest scheme to impose tariffs on nearly every imported good reveals how far he's willing to go to enforce his misguided vision. Trump is reportedly preparing to declare a national economic emergency, granting himself unchecked power under the International Economic Emergencies Power Act, IEPA. This move would allow him to sidestep Congress and impose tariffs on a whim, something no rational economist or policymaker has endorsed. This is not just a reckless economic gamble, it's a desperate power grab. Trump's obsession with tariffs stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of global economics, which could wreak havoc on American households and businesses. While his advisors and staff have repeatedly tried to dissuade him, Trump remains fixated on using tariffs as a weapon, regardless of the devastating consequences. Economists on both sides of the aisle have universally condemned this plan. Tariffs, in theory, are meant to protect domestic industries, but in practice, they lead to higher prices for consumers, strained international relationships, and retaliatory measures from other nations. Trump's insistence on pursuing these harmful policies suggests he is more concerned with projecting strength than understanding trade nuances. Moreover, his reliance on the IEEPA to implement these tariffs raises serious questions about his commitment to democratic principles. The law was designed for genuine national emergencies, not for a president to bypass checks and balances to push through ill-advised economic policies. Trump's disregard for the proper legislative process demonstrates his belief that he alone should dictate the nation's economic future, which is a dangerous mindset for any leader. Trump's inability to listen to experts is at the heart of this issue. The president-elect surrounds himself with sycophants who echo his misguided ideas rather than challenging them with facts. His tariffs have no basis in sound economic reasoning, yet he persists, convinced that brute force will make other countries bend to his will. This approach risks alienating allies and escalating trade wars, ultimately leaving the United States isolated and economically weakened. Trump's fixation on tariffs is not just bad policy, it's a betrayal of the people he claims to champion. The middle class and working Americans will bear rising costs on everyday goods, from groceries to electronics. Small businesses that rely on imported materials will struggle to stay afloat. In the end, it's the American public that will pay the price for Trump's hubris. As Trump prepares to wield the IEPA like a hammer, he must remember that his policies consistently prioritize optics over substance. Declaring a national economic emergency to justify this reckless tariff plan is not just an overreach. It's an abuse of power that threatens to undermine the economy and democracy. If Trump follows through with his tariff plans, the consequences will be swift and severe. While he boasts about using tariffs to strengthen America's position in the global market, the reality is far more sobering. These measures will likely spark retaliatory actions from other countries, leading to trade wars that harm American businesses and consumers. Countries like Canada and Mexico have already made it clear, if Trump imposes tariffs on their goods, they will retaliate. This tit-for-tat approach will escalate tensions and create an uncertain economic environment. Businesses that rely on stable trade relationships will face disruptions, leading to higher costs that will inevitably be passed on to consumers. For Trump, tariffs represent a misguided attempt to bully other nations into submission. He views economic policy as a zero-sum game, where America can only win if others lose. This approach ignores the complexities of global trade, where cooperation and interdependence are key to mutual prosperity. Trump's short-sightedness risks undoing decades of progress in building strong international alliances. The impact on American households cannot be overstated. Tariffs function as an indirect tax, raising the cost of imported goods that Americans rely on daily. Prices will rise from food to clothing to technology, squeezing family budgets and reducing purchasing power. For a president who claims to champion the working class, this policy is a direct betrayal of their interests. Small businesses, often touted as the backbone of the American economy, will bear the brunt of these tariffs. Many rely on imported materials to manufacture their products. Higher costs will force them to raise prices, cut jobs, or shut down altogether. In Trump's quest to appear tough on trade, he sacrifices the entrepreneurs and workers he claims to support. Even more troubling is the lack of accountability in Trump's approach. Using the IEEPA, he can bypass Congress and implement these tariffs unilaterally. This concentration of power undermines the democratic process and sets a dangerous precedent for future leaders. If a president can declare a national emergency to push through personal agendas, where does it end? Trump's tariff plans are not just bad economics, they're a threat to the foundations of democracy. He is steering the country toward economic chaos by prioritizing his ego over expert advice. It's a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power in the hands of a leader who prioritizes optics over outcomes. Trump's obsession with tariffs is not new. During his presidency, he repeatedly used the threat of tariffs to strong-arm other nations into compliance. In 2019, he invoked the IEEPA to threaten a 5% tariff on all Mexican imports, which would rise to 25% if Mexico didn't curb undocumented immigration. While this tactic yielded some short-term concessions, it ultimately damaged America's reputation as a reliable trade partner. The problem with Trump's tariff strategy is that it's based on fear and intimidation, not collaboration. Rather than negotiating in good faith, he employs heavy-handed tactics that alienate allies and embolden rivals. Countries like China have capitalized on Trump's missteps, strengthening their trade networks while America flounders under the weight of its misguided policies. Even within his administration, Trump's tariff plans have faced resistance. Advisors and staffers have repeatedly tried to steer him away from this path, recognizing the long-term damage it could cause. Yet Trump, ever the self-proclaimed deal-maker, refuses to listen. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, he remains convinced that tariffs are the ultimate bargaining chip. What Trump fails to grasp is that tariffs are not a sign of strength, but a sign of desperation. They reflect a leader who lacks the vision and competence to manage international trade effectively. Instead of building bridges, Trump burns them, leaving America isolated on the world stage. History has shown that protectionist policies rarely yield positive outcomes. For example, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 is widely regarded as contributing to the Great Depression. By imposing high tariffs on imported goods, the United States triggered a wave of retaliation from other nations, leading to a collapse in global trade. Trump's plan risks repeating these mistakes, with potentially catastrophic consequences for the modern economy. As Trump barrels ahead with his tariff plans, it's important to consider alternative approaches to addressing America's trade concerns. Rather than resorting to unilateral action and economic brinkmanship, the United States should focus on fostering international cooperation and innovation. Investing in domestic industries is a far more effective way to strengthen America's position in the global market. By supporting research, education, and infrastructure, the government can create an environment where businesses thrive without relying on protectionist policies. This approach not only boosts the economy, but also ensures long-term competitiveness. Additionally, the US should prioritize fair trade agreements that promote mutual benefit. Rather than imposing tariffs that strain relationships, the focus should be on creating partnerships that address shared challenges, such as intellectual property theft and environmental sustainability. Diplomacy, not hostility, is the key to navigating the complexities of global trade. Most importantly, leadership matters. America needs leaders willing to listen to experts and engage in thoughtful policymaking. Trump's reliance on fear and bluster may grab headlines, but it does little to solve real-world problems. The next generation of leaders must prioritize collaboration and evidence-based decision-making over divisive rhetoric. Donald Trump's fixation on tariffs is not just an economic blunder. It's a strategy riddled with broader consequences that could reshape the global landscape in profoundly negative ways. While Trump claims his tariffs will create jobs, protect American industries, and strengthen the economy, the reality is far from his simplistic rhetoric. His approach threatens to destabilize international relations, deepen economic inequality, and erode trust in US leadership. Tariffs are often sold to protect domestic industries, but frequently have the opposite effect. By imposing additional costs on imports, Trump's policies make essential goods more expensive for American consumers. From electronics to everyday groceries, families already struggling with inflation will face even steeper prices. This approach hurts low and middle-income Americans the most, the very people Trump claims to champion. Small businesses will also bear the brunt of these policies. Many rely on affordable imported materials to remain competitive. When those costs skyrocket due to tariffs, businesses must pass the burden onto consumers or risk financial collapse. Trump's inability to grasp these basic economic principles reveals a troubling disconnect between his promises and the practical implications of his policies. Trump's tariff plans don't exist in a vacuum. Countries impacted by his economic aggression will retaliate, creating a vicious cycle of tit-for-tat trade wars. Major trading partners like Canada, Mexico, and the European Union have already signaled their intent to respond if Trump imposes broad tariffs. These retaliatory measures could target key American industries, from agriculture to manufacturing, compounding the economic damage. Farmers, in particular, are likely to suffer under Trump's tariffs. During his presidency, retaliatory tariffs from China and other countries led to billions of dollars in losses for American agriculture. Trump attempted to offset this damage with taxpayer-funded bailouts, but these temporary measures only masked the long-term harm inflicted on the farming community. Repeating this approach would plunge American farmers further into uncertainty, jeopardizing their livelihoods. One of the most alarming aspects of Trump's tariff strategy is its potential to alienate U.S. allies. Countries that have long relied on strong trade relationships with the United States are increasingly frustrated by Trump's unpredictability and aggressive tactics. This erosion of trust weakens America's position as a global leader and creates openings for rivals like China to fill the void. China, in particular, has been a major beneficiary of Trump's missteps. While Trump's trade war with China was ostensibly designed to curb its economic dominance, the reality is that China has adapted and expanded its influence elsewhere. By pursuing protectionist policies, Trump has inadvertently strengthened China's hand in forging new trade agreements and solidifying its role as a global economic powerhouse. Trump's tariff plans are part of a broader narrative of economic nationalism, a worldview that prioritizes isolationism over collaboration. While this approach may resonate with some population segments, it ultimately weakens America's ability to compete in an interconnected world. Global trade is not a zero-sum game. Everyone benefits when countries work together to create fair and mutually beneficial agreements. Trump's tariffs, however, reject this principle in favor of a combative and short-sighted approach that isolates the United States from its allies. The irony is that many industries Trump claims to protect, such as manufacturing, have been hurt more by automation than by foreign competition. Rather than addressing the root causes of economic challenges, Trump's tariffs offer a superficial solution that ignores the complexities of the modern economy. As Trump doubles down on his misguided tariff policies, it's clear that America needs leaders who prioritize evidence-based decision-making over empty posturing. Trade policy should be guided by experts and informed by data, not dictated by the whims of a leader obsessed with projecting strength. Investing in education, infrastructure, and technological innovation would do far more to strengthen America's economy than imposing punitive tariffs. These measures would equip workers with the skills to thrive in a changing world and create global opportunities for businesses to compete. Furthermore, fostering international cooperation is essential to addressing shared challenges, from climate change to intellectual property theft. Tariffs may grab headlines, but do little to solve these pressing issues. Donald Trump's tariff plans are a dangerous combination of economic ignorance, authoritarian tendencies, and political opportunism. They threaten to harm American consumers, businesses, and international relationships while undermining the democratic principles that define the nation. As the country grapples with the consequences of Trump's policies, it's crucial to demand better from its leaders. America deserves trade policies that reflect the complexities of a globalized world, not the simplistic and self-serving ideas of a man more concerned with his legacy than the nation's well-being. The United States can only chart a path toward a more prosperous and equitable future by rejecting Trump's destructive vision. Thanks for watching. Please help us hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss out on our new content. See you in our next video.